everyone. Now, when we study the biblical narrative, one thing we had to pay attention, these are not mythologies nor make up stories. They are not just uh, things written down to answer questions, of life or faith, but these are real events that happened in the life of people of God, and through studying them, we get to understand how God worked also in their lives, and as well as how God will work in our lives. So it is a double fold. We understand how God revealed himself and worked in the lives of the people in the past, and we can look forward of how God is going to work in our lives also. Now, Genesis 14 was quite a beautiful one because if you grow up from Sunday school, you know one thing. Oh, Abraham was able to defeat the four kings coming down from the north and have a great victory and rescued his nephew Lot. But this morning, allow me to share to you a part of that message wherein the author or the writer of the book of Genesis is trying to present. It says, in the days of Amraphel, king of Shinar, that is the plains of Shinar, Arioch, king of Elasar, Chedorlaomer, it's a hard name to pronounce, no? Parang Worcestershire. Okay. Of Elam, and Tidal, king of Goyim. These are the four kings. These are living, their kingdom were in the Mesopotamian area between the two rivers, Euphrates and Tigris. Now, I take this picture from ChatGPT. Alam na kagad. This is from ChatGPT. I said, put in the early to late Bronze era. You had to prompt it, according to the researches found from the ruins, etc., etc. And he will do it, no? Free lang yan, kaya apat lang per day. If those who are using it, understand what I'm saying. So these four kings were alliance with Chedorlaomer as the main one. Siya yung pinaka-head king or the overlord king. Now, this king made war with Bera, king of Sodom. Oh, now we know who is the king of Sodom. No, it's Bera. And Birsha, king of Gomorrah. Shinab, king of Admah. And Shemeber, king of Tseboim. And the king of Bela, that is Zor. Zor is just underneath the Dead Sea. Now, so we have four kings of the plains by the two rivers and five kings of the south. So this is not just any war or not just any minor conflict. This is in that time a world war. We'll see. It says, so this is again a picture of put in the Dead Sea and the valleys of Transjordan at the background. Ayan, naging dalawa na lang ang aking prompt. So the five kings versus four kings. So here, after giving us the background of what is going to be entailed, the author continue on the book of Genesis, and all these joined forces in the valley of Siddim or Siddim, that is the Salt Sea, just underneath the sea, the Dead Sea. Now, 12 years they had served Chedorlaomer, and in the 13th year they rebelled. So they have been paying tribute for 12 years and so forth. But the purpose of tribute was to drain your country's resources. Sabihin, as you continue on paying and paying and paying, you are weakened yearly. And those kings understand it. So on the 13th year, they rebelled. And in the 14th year, Chedorlaomer and the kings who were with him came and defeated the Rephaim in Ashtaroth of Karnaim, the Suzim in Ham, and Emim in Shaveh, Kiriatim. Now, ano ibig sabihin nun? It took them 1 year to prepare all the logistic because they know this is not just a simple war. It took 1 year to prepare everything so that when the battle plan is drawn, they're going to start from the plains, Mesopotamian plains, and going all the way down to Haran, and from, or today in Syria, Lebanon, all the way down hanggang dun sa Dead Sea, and they will go all the way up on the other side and then went back home. So they are going to wipe everyone clean. You dare rebel, will wipe everyone out. Though the five kings were the one rebelled, but every city-state along the way were also attacked and destroyed. And the Horites in the hill country of Seir, as far as El Paran, that is in the Jordan area, on the border of the wilderness, then they turned back and came to Mishpat, that is Kadesh of Barnea, and defeated all the country of the Amalekites and also the Amorites who were dwelling in Hazazon Tamar. Well, this is what happened. When they go all the way down, they realize, oh, we left a packet of resistance. So they went back again to destroy them before coming down. No. So meaning the four kings don't want to leave behind, any resistance at their back. All the way down, we're going to destroy it. So here comes, they started coming down, marching, and then they saw every city-state were destroyed one by one. Even yung nalagpasan na nila, they went back and destroyed all of them, leaving no enemies at their back. So remember this, this is not a localized conflict. It is a major military campaign involving powerful kings and peoples. In fact, we read it and we think, oh, ano lang yan eh, yung laban lang dyan sa kanto. Someone just nagsuntukan na video lang. It's not. It is quite a scary thing, and we will see that that's why the kings realize they are the next. They are coming. So they had to prepare. And this is what they did. So the king of Sodom and king of Gomorrah, the king of Admah and the king of Zeboim, the king of Bela, that is Zor, went out and they joined battle in the valley of Siddim. So meaning, they gathered the forces and waited in the ilalim, or on the bottom part of the valley of Siddim, waiting for the four kings to come over. With Chedorlaomer of Elam, Tidal, king of Goim, Amraphel, king of Shinar, Arioch, king of Elasar, and four kings against 5. And they drew up battle lines ready to fight. They started facing up each other and to prepare for the big conflict. Now, the valley of Siddim were full of bitumen pits or tar pits. So it means it was meant to limit movement of troops. They waited for the four kings to come, prepare the army, sakto maraming tar pits here and there. But what happened is when the battle started, the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled. And every time, if you look at the military conflict or battles, every time the leader or a leader of an army starts to flee, the whole army will start to run. So if the two kings run, and the army fighting for their king, or at least fighting for the ruler, saw that, oh, my king ran away. Why should I stay? So everyone started fleeing, and they were defeated. And some fell into the bitumen pits or tar pits, and the rest fled into the hill country. Why hill country? Because in chapter 13, after coming out of Egypt, Abraham lived in Hebron, hill country. Hebron became later on part ng Judean hills, where the tribe of Judah, the line of the kings, will sit as rulers. So there it was. They drew out battle lines, ready to fight, but the two kings fled, and the army of the 5 kings were defeated. It's just like you waited for your enemy to come, and when they come, you run. It's like, Why did you run? You have prepared well and they still run. So again, so the enemy took all the possessions of Sodom and Gomorrah and all their provisions and went their way. And they also took Lot, the son of Abram's brother, who was dwelling in Sodom, and his possessions and went their way. In chapter 13, we saw one thing. Coming out of Egypt, Lot said, "Oh, maganda yung the plains and the fields close to Sodom and Gomorrah was quite fertile. I will go there." And went there. Slowly, from his shepherding tent, he moved into the city of Sodom. He started just coming close, living close to the plains. Later on, he is now found in Sodom. So when this war happened and the city of Sodom was attacked, Lot was one of those spoils of war. And he was captured alongside all the spoils. Now, after reaching the bottom part of the Dead Sea, Valley of Siddim, now the army goes on the left side, going up. They go down right side. This is the Jordan River going down, and the Dead Sea, right side, going down, now going up na. Now, one of those survivors ran and went to the hill country and told Abram about it. Kasama yung pamangkin mo. Lot is one of them. And so, Abram heard that his kinsman has been taken captive. He led forth his trained men, born in his house, 318 of them, and went in pursuit as far as Dan. Dan, it was the northern part of Israel. He divided his forces against them by night, and he and his servant defeated them, pursued them to Hobah, north of Damascus. Then he brought all the possessions and also brought back his kinsman Lot with his possessions and the women and the people. Now look at this. Most probably, because of the lack of evidences and records, there are, but very limited. Many archaeologists will say, did Abram attack the army, the four kings, face to face? Most probably not. What is the most probable is most probably Abram attacked the baggage train or the loot train. Ibig sabihin, after carrying the whole, all the way down, they have a lot of possessions. Now the vanguard army goes forward, the central army follows at the back, and the loot or the baggage train is at the back. That's why on a night raid, see Abram with 318 trained men, the first time use, or local strongman niya, with four Amorite co-shepherds, they attack the baggage or the loot group. So yung nag-uuwi ng mga possessions. And they were victorious. Now, a lot of times, people, when they see a big event coming, a big conflict, something terrible coming, we are very afraid. And yet, amazingly, when talking about this event, the Bible just, parang flip a page over it. Ang bilis pag-usapan. As if, taken na yan. It's like, sure win. We are always challenged by the world events today. What if we go to war? What if this conflict in the West Philippine Sea happens? What if nagkaroon nga ng Southeast Asian war? What will happen to us? What will happen to our economies? The last time was still the USA and Iran war. Now, what about this time? What happening? What will happen to my business? Will I be safe? What is the next for me, Lord? And at times, we are so afraid in such a way, we are troubled. Just like the kings, they are troubled. But what the Bible shows us, in fact, the Bible did not give us a very comprehensive, it was so scary. It was so dreadful. The people, no, it just said, these kings came, 5 kings fought against them. They lost. People keep losing. And then the Lord blessed Abraham in one way that he was able to attack and was able to brought back Lot. Tapos na. It's just like the Chinese history. When they record the history, if the empire lost, Chinese empire lost, they record everything, how pitiful they are. We are dominated. But if we win, because we are good, we gave, fight well, napakabilis. Now, one big event, and then the next event is this. Melchizedek, king of Salem, after they won, pagbaba nila in the valley of Save, or which is most probably the Kidron Valley, he was met with Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. He was the priest of God Most High. Now, who is this Melchizedek? We see in the book of Hebrews that Jesus was from the line of Melchizedek, ang kanyang high priesthood. That his high priesthood is greater even the priesthood of Aaron. Because the priesthood of Aaron has fallen and is limited only to the Jewish people, but Melchizedek was a priest of the Most High God for all people. He was appointed and put into that place by the God Most High. In fact, Melchizedek, his name means my king who is righteous. Salem actually means peace. Later on, Salem went on to be called Jerusalem. From where peace flows, Jerusalem. J was the latter invention, So people in the past call it Ur-Salim. Later on, Jerusalem. Then Jerusalem, and then Jerusalem. Meaning from where peace flows. And he blessed him and said, "Blessed be Abraham by God Most High, possessor of heaven and earth, and blessed be God Most High, who has delivered your enemies into your hand." And Abraham gave him 10th of everything. If you're Abraham, you have just won a great battle. Will you give? And then someone came to you. Most probably people will say, "Oh, ang galing-galing mo, no? You had done very well. You're so brave, You're able to fight." But instead of hearing that, someone said, "Oh, praise God, God gave you victory." And we might say, normal lang naman yun, di ba? We give praise to God. Now, think again. How many people today, after being blessed by God, would see that it is their work? I'm a self-made man. It is not God, it is me. It is me. Now, look at what Melchizedek said. He said, "Blessed be Abraham by God Most High, possessor of heaven and earth." Just when Abraham was coming home with a big loot. Yeah? He came home victorious and with a lot of possessions. And Melchizedek told him, "God is the one who blessed you." He was the possessor of heaven and earth. And then Melchizedek also said, "Blessed be God Most High, who has delivered your enemies into your own hand, into your hand." You just fought the battle, and someone said, because it was God-given victory. How hard it is for today that after a big event, and you become triumphant, and when you are victorious, and you are happy, and you're celebrating, and think, "Wow, ang galing ko." Then suddenly, someone told you, "No, God gave it to you." We might think it's simple, but it's very hard to humble down at that point. And he brought out bread and wine. Now, I do believe personally that Melchizedek is the pre-incarnate Christ. That's why the similarity, there is the bread and wine. He made a covenant with them. Just like in the Last Supper, Christ made a covenant of grace, bread and wine. And then we also see that Abraham gave a tithe. Now, the tithe was not pre-Mosaic law, or before the law was given, the tithe was already a practice, actually. That it is an offering given to the Lord, and later on made into a national law due to Mosaic covenant. Now, the king of Sodom also came to Abraham and said, "Give me the persons, but take the goods for yourself." Now, to anyone reading New Old Testament, you will see yung bartering between one person and another. It's a chance. 技术活. It's a life technique. You have to learn it. The words are not simple. It's just like when Abraham said, "Give me this cave of Machpelah. I'm going to bury my wife." Oh, the Hittite king said, "No, no, no. Take the land. You're a prince among us. Take it and use it as you please." Is it really free? No, it's not. Then again, we see David when he came to the field of Araunah, because the Lord has sent an angel to wipe his army out, and one day 50,000 soldiers were killed because David counted his fighting men, and he told Araunah, "I'm going to buy the land. I'm going to offer to the Lord." Again, Araunah said, "No, my Lord, you are the king. No, take it and use it." "No," David said, "I will not offer to the Lord that costs me nothing. Give me the price." So, every time you see these kinds of conversation in the Old Testament, hindi siya ganun kasimple. It's just like the fine print in your contract, pero ang font 1. May fine print, you read it, and then there's a 0.5 to 1 na font lang na fine print nakasulat. There's always a catch. By asking the people, actually, Bera was saying, "I'm a loving king." Though he is the reason why the army lost. Because he ran. Now he became the loving king. He take back his people. But at the same time, he was passing on the blame. What if he brought back the people, and the people went back to Sodom and said, "How about our possessions? Where are our possessions?" "Oh, it's with Abraham." Tapos usapan. I asked for you from Abraham, but of course yung wealth I cannot. Kanina magagalit yung mga people of Sodom kay Abraham. It's a trap. So, we see, give me my people, take the goods, is not a simple matter as face front lang. So, but Abraham said to king of Sodom, "I have lifted my hands to the Lord, my hand to the Lord, God Most High, possessor of heaven and earth, that I will not take a thread or a sandal strap or anything that is yours, lest you should say, I have made Abraham rich. I will not be counted as one of your, you are not made patron. You are not the reason who make I become rich. Because it is God, the possessor of heaven and earth, who made me rich." One of the things that it is hard to share the gospel to a group of people is when I'm sharing a person who is a self-made person. Alam mo yung mahirap doon? What's hard in that part is that they think, "I have done this myself. I don't need God. I work hard. I built my own home. I built up my own business. This empire that you see, my own hands." And it is not limited to the non-Christians. And even at times, even Christians have that kind of mindset. Ako may gawa nito. Me. Not God. Not God. How hard it is today that when we come before God, the Lord has blessed us in such a way, not only save us, but also bless us. But what we see most of the time is the works of our own hands. Ako may gawa. So here, two truths were revealed to us in Genesis chapter 14. God is sovereign over every event, even war. Do you trust Him? Do you trust Him today? Are you fearful today? Are you fearful today? The second truth, God is the source of every blessing, whether you know it or not, whether you understand it or not. It doesn't negate that God is the possessor of heaven and earth, that it is He who enriched and blessed you, not the world. Lest one or any Christian will come before God and say, Lord, yung business partner ko ang nag-bless sa akin, not you. Who blessed you today? Who was the one who lifted you up to where you are today? Who gave your enemies into your hand? Who blessed your hand and enriched you? Is it you yourselves? Or is it the Lord?